Okay, thank you again, everyone, for just giving us your time here tonight to learn more about such an important resource, which is SNAP. Also, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, if you want to lay it all out, also formerly known as the Food Stamps Program, informally known in a lot of our communities as food stamps, SNAP, EBT, Access Card, all of these different names and these ways that we refer to this. My name is Lou, and I'm an AmeriCorps Vista with the city. Been working with Shelley Danko Day in the Department of City Planning. And all of this current SNAP outreach is really been inspired by both the Feed Pittsburgh report that came out in 2020 that the city did that helped to really map food insecurity throughout the city. And then also from the Pittsburgh Food Equity Ambassadors, who are a group of community members that provide recommendations around policy action and food. And one of their recommendations was to make sure that all eligible participants are enrolled in SNAP. So we're really trying to take that charge from the community to do more from the city side. And a lot of these reports really mention the importance of relying on these systems that we already know work. So these programs that are already benefiting people. And really we see SNAP as one of those. So just to kind of lay it out for whoever's here and maybe new to these conversations, food insecurity, that term I'm using, has been formally defined by the USDA as, quote, the lack of consistent access to enough food for an active, healthy life, unquote. But we also know the importance of food that is nutritionally beneficial, culturally appropriate, and also putting that power into people's hands so they can make those food choices for themselves, right? So that is what SNAP really does help us do. We've come to really refer to SNAP as like our first line of defense against food insecurity. And food insecurity can look very different for every person and every household that's experiencing it. So through SNAP, we know that it works best to give households benefits so that they're in control of their food choices and their purchases. And we really want to encourage our communities and everyone here tonight to try to help us reduce that kind of stigma that still surrounds SNAP, and to make sure that our neighbors and our clients and whatever spaces we're in have access to the benefits that they deserve. So we're all coming here with different levels of knowledge and experience. I'm going to throw up like a little poll. You can answer for us, how much knowledge or experience do you have with SNAP? None, a little, or some, or a lot. And that way we can see kind of where we're all falling tonight, and it'll help Chris and Keelan, I know, in some of the resources that they're going to be giving too. Finally, before we get started, I do want to just share some resources that we have created at the city. And I'm going to end this poll so you can see. Okay, so we're mostly around a little or some, which is great. Some people have a lot. So if you do have a lot of knowledge, feel free to jump into this conversation. Please add on. And then some people who have no knowledge. So thank you for being here today as well. At all the stages that we're at. Okay, so before we get started, I'll first share this resource that we made recently at the city. And this is going to highlight a few of these main partners. The first is the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, which we have with us here tonight. So they have a SNAP call center of a team of people who they'll tell you all about the resources that they can offer there. We also have Just Harvest. They also have SNAP specialists. Again, they kind of have a number, a call in the system as well. So just know these are kind of two people who can field a lot of these SNAP questions and these resources. But we can also offer in-person senior assistance at the Healthy Active Living Centers. This is something that we even learned recently, is they have people at these centers who can help do SNAP applications in person for seniors. So if that is a concern, if someone would rather be in person doing that than over the phone or online, that's really good to know. Then the Food Trust runs a program called Food Bucks. So this is for people already receiving SNAP. This is a great program that can provide $2 coupons for every $5 that they spend buying produce with SNAP. So we have a link there as well for people to learn about how they might get connected to food bucks. And then Chris and Keelan will go over some more like immediate food resources as well that the food bank offers. And then finally, you're all here tonight. Thank you so much for being here. We also, next Monday, we'll try to dive a little bit deeper into this. This first training is designed to be like a general training, but our second one is designed to be more of a deep dive into, okay, so how do I actually submit an application? How do I navigate Compass? How do I, what links do I click? What are the tips? If I'm helping someone else through their application, what do they need to know? So really trying to do more of that deep dive into the SNAP app. So if you've have heard of anyone who really would benefit from having that deeper education as well, just join us here same time next Monday. Okay, I'm going to stop and I'm going to pass it over to Chris and Keelan. Thank you all for what you're putting in the chat, and feel free to throw any questions or concerns also while they're presenting. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us this hour. Really happy to be with you. And thanks so much to the city of Pittsburgh, Lou, Shelley. Really appreciate the city's leadership on this, and we're really happy to partner with them to make Pittsburgh more food secure. So myself, my name is Chris West, Director of Community Connections at the Food Bank. So that works with our SNAP team, our call center, and making connections beyond food, such as employment, housing, healthcare, things like that, to look more holistically at a person's need. And I'm here with Keelan.
Hi, I'm Keel McDonald. I am the Community Connections Partnership Supervisor. I was a SNAP outreach coordinator for 3 years, and now I help to supervise that team. So I know Chris is starting off the presentation, so I'll turn it back over to him, and then we'll dive into SNAP a little more.
Great. So I wanted to go over a couple of things with you all. First is a 2-question food insecurity screening that could be helpful. The second is our general resource guide. It includes SNAP and some other resources. And the third is just our website, and just give you a quick, our website's been redone if you haven't been there for a while, and give you a few resources, including SNAP. And then deep dive into SNAP and kind of more about that, why it's important, how to make referrals, and kind of more about that program that Keelan's going to do. So I'm going to start with that food insecurity screening. And all of this we will share with Lou and Shelley, and they can send it out after the presentation. So you'll definitely have copies of all this. But I wanted to share this with you because these 2 questions can be really good to add to an intake or a check-in that you might be doing with someone, because they're pretty quick and easy, and they're like 93% predictive of finding folks that are food insecure. So it's just, we worried whether our food would run out before we got money to buy more. Often, sometimes, never true in the last 12 months. Second one, food we bought just didn't last. We didn't have money to get more. Often, sometimes, never true for the last 12 months. And that's it. So it can be really easy to slip in there. And if somebody answers often or sometimes to either one, then that's a positive screen for food insecurity. So just wanted to throw that out there. You'll get that resource. But if you're not screening for food insecurity, that could be a good way to do it. Besides SNAP, which the Food Bank call center can help with, we can also help with finding a pantry that is close by to folks. We can also help with drive-up food distributions, getting folks signed up for that. So that is what our Produce to People that folks might be familiar with. That's what that turned into with COVID, and at this point is still at drive-up status. So we have 5 in Allegheny County, 5 in outlying counties. And if folks are in an emergency situation or have questions, they can also also contact us. And our call center, it's just the food bank number. So 412-460-3663 and then extension 655. So it's just the food bank number, extension 655. And we work to, get folks whatever food assistance is going to be helpful to them. And then I also mentioned, we also connect folks to other organizations. So if something comes up on the call, like an employment issue, transportation issue with health, we can make those referrals to other organizations as well. And then also the other thing too is programs for kids. So after school meals, summer food for kids, we can make connections to those programs as well. So a lot of programs there that we can help folks with. SNAP, of course, being the main one. But this you'll get afterwards. So it has our website. We can sign people up for SNAP, food pantry, drive up distribution, get kids connected to meals. In an emergency situation, there's our call center number right there at the bottom. The other thing I just wanted to point out on the back is there's some income guidelines for SNAP. And Keelan will go over some of that as well. And then this last part is about using a proxy. And I just wanted to note that because a lot of folks don't know that for SNAP benefits or a pantry or a drive-up food distribution, you can have somebody go on your behalf to get those resources. So just important to note, if somebody does have mobility challenges or a distribution's happening at a time they can never get to, that is an important tool that they can use to get the food they need. So wanted to mention that. There's some more information there. The other thing I wanted to show you here is our website. So a couple of things. So this is our main page. So it's pittsburghfoodbank.org. And if you go to find food, the green button there, you will see kind of on the right-hand side here is kind of a handy list of the things, important things you can get to. So what I'll show you quickly is drive-up distribution, our food locator, and then SNAP. And then I'll turn it over to Keelan for a lot more information, everything you ever wanted to know about the program. So if you go up to our drive-up distribution, we have them listed about a month or so in advance. So you can see all the different ones that are listed, and it goes through April. And folks can reserve a spot themselves online, or they can just call our call center and we'll do it. So so either way. Now, if we go back to that find food. So the other, besides our drive-up distributions, is our locator. And this is a handy tool if you're looking for resources that are close to someone in the community. We'll put in a zip code. We'll say 15212. So a zip code on the north side. So you can, if you want to get specific, you can on days and times. If you skip, it'll just select everything. The same thing with programs. You can get specific for what you're looking for or just skip. And then it'll come up with everything that's close to you on the north side. So you'll see senior box locations, food pantry, soup kitchens. There's also the closest drive-up distribution we have is over river in the west end there. But it gives times, locations, phone numbers for that. So another just a handy tool I wanted to show you. And then if we go back to main page, find food, and we'll go to our SNAP page. So our SNAP page gives you some more information on that program, and also importantly has a referral form right on the page. So someone can just fill this out. So it's just their name, phone number, what county, zip code, how'd you hear about us, submit. That's it. And we will very quickly, oftentimes next day, we'll get back to folks and give them a call and see how we can help them. And we can do a SNAP application right over the phone if they might qualify. So that's a really important way that folks, they could call the call center. They can also just fill out this form as well. And here's some information needed for a SNAP application and some more handy information on there as well. So I wanted to point that out. And so as I turn it over to Keelan here, just a couple of reasons that SNAP is so important and why we are spending so much time on that particular program. Lou mentioned it in the open. It's kind of like the frontline defense against food insecurity. If we had to pick one program, we can only pick one to get folks signed up in that's going to really help them combat food insecurity, it would be SNAP. And one SNAP application, when we submit it, that equates to about 947 meals. So that's taking average of not everyone qualifies and the average length of time people are on SNAP. So all of that together, if you submit a SNAP application, that's about 947 meals for the community, for that household. So that's huge. And as important as food pantries and food distributions are, SNAP, nothing can match, the power that SNAP has, and also the ability of people to go and choose the food that's right for them and their family. So just some of the reasons that we're spending a lot of time on this particular program. So with that, I will turn it over to Keelan, and we'll have plenty of time to at the end to answer any questions, talk about how people have seen their involvement with SNAP, anything we can answer or have a discussion as a group. So Keelan, I'll let you take it away with more SNAP detail.
Awesome. So I am going to share my screen. I have a PowerPoint. What I will say is if you do have questions, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and jump in, because I want this to be as informative and interactive for you as possible. So if I'm covering something where you don't understand or covering something where you're like, we got this already, I would love to be able to have a good conversation with everybody. So I am going to share my screen here. Okay, so you already know why we're here. We're the SNAP application assistance component of the food bank. Where Chris and I are members of the Community Connections team. So we already talked about that a little bit. And this is kind of an overview of the food bank. I won't get into this too much, but the important thing about this is that we do have a large network. I know that most of the folks here are in Allegheny County. That's why you're here. But if you have counterparts, for example, in other counties in our service area, a lot of this information is relevant for them as well. And we also have a number of partners in all of the counties that we serve. And many of you are members of organizations that do partner with us already, which is awesome. And we have other opportunities for that as well, as Chris mentioned before. So the main goal of the Community Connections team, it sort of originated as a team to make SNAP benefits more accessible. We want to provide one-on-one assistance, and we do many other things now, but that's sort of where our team originated, and that's still one of our primary focuses. So the reason that we do SNAP outreach is because we know that a lot of folks are not receiving benefits who are eligible. And this is really important because this is a program that can really be beneficial. I myself have used it. I know a lot of people have used it in times when they need that. It's supplemental. So it's during times when you do need that extra budget for food. And so that's why we do a lot of outreach. And then also the application itself can be very confusing. I know several people were talking about, asking about if we were going to review Compass and things like that. So it can be complicated. So that's why we're here. So why SNAP to begin with? The reason that SNAP, in addition to what Chris said earlier about how SNAP is one of sort of the most impactful programs on an individual level, why is it important to have folks sign up for SNAP and get them connected to it? It offers choices. You know, you might go to a pantry, and some pantries you don't really have a choice. You get a box, and you know that's awesome and that's needed. But this gives, you know, a lot more options if you have dietary preferences, or you know, maybe are following a low sodium diet or something along those lines. This is one that a lot of people don't necessarily think about right away, but SNAP actually puts money back into the community. So if you think about it, when you're spending SNAP dollars, you know, those are going to maybe a local grocery store. You know, some of our grocery stores are chains, that's for sure, but also they're contributing to, you know, your community when you're spending that money there. It also reduces the strain on pantries and other service organizations. I know a lot of people here are members of organizations that help with food, or, you know, support folks that need assistance with food in one way or another. So you kind of know how, when the need is very great, that can be sort of very stressful on the system. And SNAP works to help prevent that a little bit. It's a great complement to other food programs. And a lot of people that are eligible for SNAP and registered for SNAP, or are receiving SNAP rather, then become eligible for other programs. So low cost internet is a good example. If folks are on SNAP, that allows them to actually apply for things like, you know, it's like a $10 a month internet. And if you're paying an internet bill, you know that that can be a huge benefit, you know, to somebody's family. It also provides flexibility in the budget to pay for other needs like medicine and utilities. So this is a big selling point. A lot of people in this room right now are talking to people about benefits on a regular basis. And I will often speak with people that are like, well, I don't really need money for food. I'm eating, you know, I have no problems with that. But what I really need money for is, you know, my insulin or something along those lines, my medication, or I'm really behind on my electric bill. So SNAP isn't really for me, you know, I need my electric bill. And truthfully, if you have that budget that's specifically set aside each month for food, that's money that's then freed up to be able to pay for some of those other needs. So that becomes a really important conversation if you're ever talking to people who are like, well, this is what I really need. SNAP is still there for them as well. These are the income guidelines. So income guidelines do change every October. As you can see, there are two different income brackets. So if somebody is under 59 and non-disabled, they would fall into this first income bracket. And then if somebody is over 60 or disabled, they do not have to be both, it's just one or the other, they would fall into this higher income bracket. And you know, that goes by household as well. So if there is a, you know, person over 60 or a disabled person in the household, then that whole household would usually move into that next income bracket. So a lot of people are really surprised at how high these guidelines are. So this is another reason that we try to get the word out as much as possible. You know, a lot of us in the work that we do, depending on what job you have or your household size, this may even be a program that may be of interest to you, or somebody that you know. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. If somebody is not eligible, I do encourage them to apply in the fall because it does change every year. I see that somebody has their hand raised.
Good afternoon, Parshu.
Hi, Parshu.
A quick question on this. So usually the income limit is 160% of federal poverty line.
Mm-hmm.
So that means for the age 59 and 60, or 59 and under, or 60 and above. So which rules applies on these two? So 160% applies on which group? Is that as in 60 and over, or disabled, or 59 and under?
So are you saying if the person is 60, which group do they fall into?
No, usually the income limit is 160% of federal poverty line.
Right.
So and that's the age 59 and under.
Yeah.
Okay, that is for 59 and under.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was misunderstanding your question. Yeah, that's correct. So that is for
Okay.
59 and under. And again, if you look like online or something, there's different guidelines. This is for the state of PA specifically
Okay.
for our area here. Yeah, and then the 60 and over
Okay.
is a higher
Okay.
percentage. Thanks
Okay.
for that question.
No problem. Thank you.
And then I see Jayla has their hand raised.
Yes, Jayla.
Jayla, hi.
Hi. So my question is, say for working families with independents in the household who do not meet income guidelines and are over income and don't qualify for food stamps. Okay. So my question is, say when their children have those school days or they're out sick or their kids are out sick and they can't go to work, and they miss those days on their paycheck, right? And they're not making a salary and they don't have PTO days. Should they reapply once they get that next pay stub and it shows that they had a lack of hours during that pay period or adjustment in their income in order to qualify? Or how should that work?
Sure, that's a great question. So it depends on the situation. SNAP looks at the last 30 days of income. So if somebody say, is out with COVID and is out for 2 whole weeks, and they're unfortunately with SNAP, it's not like, it's a little bit reactive, honestly, in the sense that you can't say like, oh, I know that I'm not going to be at work for these next 2 weeks, so I'm going to apply now. You have to do it, retroactively. So if you hadn't worked for 2 weeks, as an example, and then you fell below the income guidelines as a result, you could apply then. If you are already receiving benefits, but your income changes and it is lower than it was before, then that person would want to call the statewide customer service center number, which that's on a later slide. So I will share that with everyone.
Okay.
And they can update their income that way. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit. It is, if there are other programs that may be more helpful to somebody that say is missing only a couple days, and maybe that 30 days of income does not allow them to be eligible, that person would then be a really great candidate for something like one of our drive-up distributions. Because again, all of these programs kind of work in conjunction with each other. So hopefully that answers your question. Did it? Does that make sense?
Okay. That made a lot of sense to me. And just one more so we can move on. Okay, sure. Does the PEBT tie into SNAP benefits for individuals who do not qualify?
Yeah.
Or is that something that's going to be later in the script in the presentation?
It is later, but we can absolutely go over that now. So
sorry, I'm moving a little head. I'm sorry.
No worries. No, that's perfect. I knew that one was going to come up too, so I'm ready. So PEBT is actually completely separate than SNAP. Just to make life really confusing, a totally separate program. It is brand new, so it is only because of the pandemic. And that program is a non-application program. So you don't do anything to receive PEBT. It's determined by the school and the state. So depending on how long your child is out of school, it depends on the free and reduced lunch status of the school that your child attends. There's like a series of things that go into it. But basically, if you qualify for a PEBT card, you'll receive one, or you'll receive a letter that says that you get one. The important thing to know about this is that you may still be eligible for SNAP if you fall into these income guidelines. So there are some people that receive PEBT that exceed the income guidelines of SNAP. They can only use PEBT. There are other folks that are within the income guidelines for SNAP and have received PEBT, and you can receive both of those at the same time. So especially if someone got a PEBT card and that kind of sparked their interest about, food assistance in general and the SNAP card, they should definitely call and apply.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yep. And then I see, it looks like Clerville's. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your names.
You said it right. That's
okay,
good.
Great.
But you can call me Mo to make it short.
Okay.
Mike, you may have already answered that question as I may become late because of technical difficulty I had before. And let me move that so I can see the table you have on the screen here. There's that where it said age 59 and under, age 60 and under. Does that mean whether you have only one person that is 60, regardless of family, that qualification will stand?
Yes. So yes, it is. The household becomes a 60 and over or disabled household as soon as there's one person in the household. I will cover what makes a household too a little bit later in the presentation. So just because folks are living under the same roof doesn't make them the same household. But yes, if people are living together and purchasing and preparing food together and one person is over 60, they would be bumped into that upper income bracket.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right. Anybody else? I can't see everybody on my screen, so if you have your hand raised and I didn't call on you, I apologize. All right. I'm not seeing anybody, I don't think. So this is a little bit about what we do, you know, at the food bank, because it can get a little bit confusing. As some of you mentioned before, you help folks apply for assistance, the county assistance office, you know, many of us know about. So what exactly is it that we're doing at the food bank? And we can submit new applications. So this is for anybody that has not received SNAP before or is not currently receiving SNAP. We can submit renewals. The renewals are when you have an active SNAP case, you get a letter, depending on age, usually 6 months or 3 years, you get a letter saying that you're up for renewal, and folks can call us and we can take care of that for them. We can also apply for utility benefits. So this is sort of part of the Compass application. So if somebody calls me and is interested in SNAP and is also, you know, needs assistance with their electricity, I would submit a LIHEAP and a SNAP application for that person. We can also help to upload client documents. And the reason that I would like to highlight this is because we find that the #1 place that people sort of drop off from their applications and don't end up receiving benefits is if they've forgotten or been unable to upload their documents for verification. So we offer that. And we also follow up with people in order to remind them that that is something that they have to do. Because, you know, we know, especially if you're, you know, in a crisis situation, which many of the folks that are calling us are, it's hard to remember all the things you have to do. So we want to be there and we want to be, you know, as supportive as possible to be able to help people get these benefits. Things we cannot do. We don't approve applications. That's still the county assistance office, still goes through the same sort of state process that any other application would go through. We also can't modify active cases. So if somebody calls me and says, you know, hey, my daughter just moved out, I have a different household size now, I would then encourage them to call the statewide number, which is this 877 number that's listed. It's 877-395-8930. So if people need that, that's the way that they handle that with an active case. We also don't send EBT cards. So we don't send new cards. We can't send lost or replacement cards. So again, the statewide customer service center is really the best option for that. So this is a lot of text. I'll cover it very quickly. You can call us. You'll connect with one of our coordinators. Every single one of them is amazing. They're so personable. They're so caring and kind, and they will help whomever, you know, you direct to us. We do recommend that whoever is calling has their gross income and their social security numbers for everybody in their household ready, because that's what allows us to actually get that application submitted. And if you do get a voicemail, it does happen, we are very busy. You can just leave a specific day and time to reach you, and we can actually schedule appointments for people as well. So, you know, if somebody calls and they're like, I only have 5 minutes right now because I'm on my way to work, we'll just make sure that we get them in for a time that works for them. We also have some weekend and some evening hours. So it's not like a set time and day, but if somebody needs that due to a work schedule or whatever, we do accommodate that. Folks can also text us. So if you text SNAP to this 412-435-4446 number, we can schedule an appointment. It's important to note that we cannot do a SNAP application over text. That would be so difficult. So we do have to talk to people over the phone in order to actually get that application submitted. And then finally, our website is this awesome resource, pittsburghfoodbank.org/SNAP will take you right to our interest form. If you're working with folks or if you're filling out this form yourself, some people think that they've applied when they filled out this form, and that is actually not the case. But what they have done is let us know that they're interested. So we call them back within 2 business days. So if you fill out that form, that's not the SNAP application, but it's getting you to the right place. We also have a lot of other resources on the website. I know Chris mentioned some of them earlier. So it's also great to kind of browse around and see what's available there. All right, so maximum benefit amounts. I'm highlighting this because this has changed. It's changed a couple times in the past year, and this is what we're working with right now. Based on household size, these are the maximum benefit amounts. And if a family is not eligible for the maximum amount, they will receive an additional payment to boost them up to that maximum amount. Or if they are eligible for the maximum amount, they will receive an additional $95, and that is in effect, as far as we know, until May 31st of 22. So just a couple months from now. This is because of the pandemic that this was enacted. It is possible that it could be renewed again, but we, won't know that until late April. So, so for now, these are the maximum amounts that folks are receiving. This also means it's a really good time to apply because, in the past, people were not necessarily getting this much. And this is, a solid amount that somebody can then reliably have in their budget for food. All right, so we're going to get into some FAQs. Again, please feel free to jump in with more questions because I know there's plenty of stuff that isn't covered in here. Oops, 1 second. Well, there we go. Okay. So many of you said that you do have some knowledge of SNAP already, which is awesome. So some of you may know this, but the things you can buy with SNAP are food items, things that have nutrition labels, and fresh fruits and veggies, produce, edible stuff, basically that isn't a supplement. You cannot buy hygiene items, vitamins, medicine, paper products. None of that can be purchased with SNAP. It is food items only. Another sort of weird distinction that you don't necessarily have to remember is food that is hot at the point of sale, you also can't buy with SNAP. So if you go to Walmart and they have those rotisserie chickens and one of them is in the refrigerator part and one of them is in the heat lamp part, you can only buy the cold one. So that is a little bit weird for folks, but for the most part, any of the groceries or sort of normal things like that you would want to get, you would be able to with SNAP. The cool thing about our department too is that if people do need assistance with some of these other things, there are plenty of other organizations. Some of you are members of those organizations that are helping people access some of this other stuff. So we can connect folks to some resources to be able to support them, with toiletries or something like that as well. All right, so the SNAP renewal period, I did mention this before. This was actually on hold during the pandemic. So some people that are newly on SNAP will be getting this for the first time, and they may not know, right away exactly what it is. But basically, depending on your age, folks that are over 60 only have to renew every 3 years. Folks that are under 60, non-disabled, so 59 and under non-disabled, same as those income categories, would have to renew every 6 months. Or yes, every 6 months, they usually have to recertify. Sometimes it can be up to a year. So it's a little bit variable, but basically 6 months to 3 years is that renewal period, and they will get a letter from County Assistance Office letting them know that that's coming up. All right, so we had mentioned this before. A SNAP household is defined as anybody that purchases and prepares their food together and, lives together. People that are married and living together are considered one SNAP household. So sometimes they get questions about that, married or something along those lines and under the same roof, you would be in the same household. And then if you are in something like a roommate situation where you're not related to the other people you're living with, maybe you're in college, something like that, then people can actually apply on their own. And I see that Parshu has another question.
Yes, I have a question about the household.
Sure.
Sometimes the joint family, let's say the grandparents live in a child, but those are let's say the grandparent and a child who is 21, the grandchild who is 21.
Right.
They live in the same house, but they share their utilities, everything. They cook separate, but they are sharing their room because they cannot afford to live separate. So what about in that case? They can join or they can do it individual?
So in a case like that, so if the example is only the grandparent and a 21-year-old, that actually would be one household. And the reason for that is you can only apply for yourself for SNAP. I know this doesn't make a lot of sense, but you can only apply for yourself for SNAP when you're 23 or older. So if it's just the grandparent and the 21-year-old child, then they would have to be one household. If it is the grandparent and their 23-year-old child, and they're purchasing and preparing their food separately, then they could be two separate households. That would ultimately be up to the person to tell me what their household is. Like I always let folks know, like, hey, it's if you purchase and prepare food separately, but there are plenty of cases where, maybe one person is over income and they're purchasing and preparing their own food and the other person is within income. And those would then be two separate households.
Yes, we had that incident last time. Grandparent and a grandchild, they came. The grandchild is 23. It's 22 and up. 23 summer. So they told me, so I was helping them to fill up the application, paper application. So I keep on asking how many people live. They say 2. I just mentioned 2. I didn't ask them whether they are preparing purchase separate or not.
Right.
So then when it comes with the expense, they told me like, I will pay this person and my grandparents will pay their person. So I mentioned that one too. Then they receive only one EBT card. Then they came to me and they asked, no, we are not cooking together. Like we are cooking everything separate. So this is whose EBT and that is their whole. So that's what I'm just trying to know so that I can ask them before I can fill up the application.
Yeah, so my best guess in that situation is because of the age of the grandchild, that's probably why that was sort of like defaulted to one household, because that's what it sounds like is happening to me, if they only received one EBT card. But as soon as that child turns 23, which I guess then you're not really a child, it's just that person is 23, then they can apply on their own as their own household. However, in that case too, if they are already listed on the grandparent's household, it is up to the grandparent to remove that person from their household. So you can't call county assistance and say, hey, can you remove me from so-and-so's household? You have to have the person whose application it's under remove the other people.
Yeah, we did that one. But I'm just trying to know next time I will not repeat those similar error.
Yeah, so and that is a weird, and actually that should be in my FAQs too. So yeah, 23 is the age there to be able to apply if you're living with a relative. So if you're not living with a relative, let's say you're 18 and you're living in your own apartment or you're living with a roommate, then you can apply, no problem.
What about you live with a uncle or step parents?
Yeah, so basically any relative or like guardian type situation, you would have to be older. You would have to be 22 or older to apply on your own if you're living in the same house as them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Okay. All right, so this, many of you may know this already, but a lot of people are like, well, I work full time. I don't think I'm eligible for SNAP. If you meet the income guidelines, you know, I talk to folks that are working 2 jobs, they're working more than full time. And if they're under the income guidelines, they are still eligible. This is a new one because for a little while, oh my gosh, there's a ghost in my computer. It keeps advancing. Hold on. All right, so for a little while, phone interviews were on hold. So folks were getting benefits, not having to talk to you know, a caseworker necessarily at the county assistance office. You now are required to complete a phone interview with a caseworker before you can receive your benefits. So the reason this is important is because it can be confusing because people are like, well, I called somebody already. I called the food bank and I talked to them. So that's my phone interview. You call us, and we remind people of this when we talk to them. You call us first, we submit the application, then you'll speak with a caseworker to be able to verify that information. And the reason for that is just because, you know, there are some more sort of specific questions about the individual case that the caseworker needs to get into in order to determine how much somebody's eligible for example. So that's the reason that it works that way, but people do need to complete that phone interview now. And we provide instructions too for like how to go about that. And then the county assistance office sends, you know, something in the mail or additional instructions as well. So fortunately that is becoming, you know, more and more accessible. All right, so this kind of covers the PEBT question from earlier as well. So I'll just recap that real quick. And again, if you meet the income guidelines for SNAP, you should apply because even if you're receiving other benefits, you know, you can use those in conjunction. And the same with WIC. WIC is an awesome program, but it is a little bit more restricted than SNAP. So if you're receiving WIC and you still qualify for SNAP, that does give a little bit more flexibility to the types of foods that you can purchase. This is just a little graph that's showing that we know for a fact that SNAP participants report better health than eligible non-participants, which is why it's so important to get the word out there, because not only are people eating more nutritious foods, but they're also reducing their allostatic load, their general stress level, you know, when they are able to when they're able to participate in this program. So it is really important that people are able to sign up for this when they, you know, when they're eligible. Just to reiterate, you can text us, you can call us, you can go to our website. This also, you know, we also have this online form, which I'll just show you what this looks like real quick. You can feel free as a provider to fill this out for someone else with their permission as well. So if you have somebody that you're working with or a neighbor or a friend, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't have to be a work relationship. If it's somebody who's interested in SNAP, but maybe is like not computer savvy or something, and you want to be able to use this form, you can fill that out on the behalf of somebody else with their permission. You can also call us on the behalf of somebody else with their permission. So provided you have all the necessary information, you could call for somebody and still get that application submitted for them. All right, another thing is, I know a lot of folks are here representing organizations. We would love to work with you. There are a number of ways to partner, as Chris mentioned earlier. And, you know, we are interested in helping to support your organization as well, because we are all trying to serve people. Like, you know, a lot of us are here for that. And so in addition to Chris and myself, we also have 2 outreach coordinators. So for a lot of your main point of contact would be Deanna Rojas, and she is our Allegheny County outreach coordinator. So if you ever have something like an event, a tabling event, or a community meeting, and you want somebody to be able to speak on that, to speak on SNAP or to speak on the food bank, she is, you know, an awesome person. You can also talk to me and I will get that information to her. So either way you kind of want to do it. And then if you are working with anybody in the Beaver Butler area, we also have somebody doing outreach out there, Patricia Ferrix. also amazing. So these are just kind of other ways to get involved with the food bank, or to have the food bank come and present to your staff or your clients or whomever, your community, or your community groups. All right. I know that was a lot of information, and thank you so much for asking great questions. But if there are any other questions, please let me know. Now's the time.
And while folks are thinking of any questions they want to ask, just to address a couple things that were in the chat. So we cannot help with getting current PA IDs, unfortunately. It's not something that the food bank does at this time. There was talk about emergency food, and also I just wanted to let folks know that our location and a few other locations as well are just walk-in. No appointment needed. So this is the food bank in Duquesne. And we're about to open a new pantry called The Market very soon. But even now, folks, if they have an emergency and they need food now, it's just walk in. So that's nice to know that, folks wouldn't have to wait for a pantry distribution that's a week or two away. So I just wanted to make that known. And then two last things, and then any questions folks have. One is we do have a native Spanish speaker on staff, and we also have a contract with Language Line, so we can get a translator on the phone for somebody that speaks any language. So we can help with any of that. And the flyer that I showed you that has our resources on it. We're happy to get copies to folks. If that would be helpful, we can send you copies of those to have. So yeah, so any other questions that folks have?
I do see a question in the chat from Dave saying, do you have a list of available emergency locations and hours? And so I'm typing a response to you as well, but what I'll say about that is the best option is really to call the food bank, because we can work with the person specifically. Like if they, need a pantry that's in their zip code or whatever, we can work with them. But our emergency pantry that Chris was talking about is 8 to 4, and it's at 1 North Linden Street in Duquesne. So that's that walk-in one that he was specifically talking about. But fortunately, there are also sometimes other emergency food options. So if you're working with a specific, person, then, we can definitely kind of hone in on the food resources that are going to work best for them. And I see Anna has a question as well. I think you're on mute still. Can't hear you.
Sorry. Yes, I was in mute. Anyway, I was telling you, I work with a lot of Latinos families. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the family is a single mom with 2 or 3 kids, but only one child is eligible for the SNAP.
Yeah.
So if it's accepted for that child, they take in account the total family to get food?
So with the SNAP program specifically, it only accounts for the eligible members of the household. So for example, yeah, so if somebody has, depending on their immigration status and things like that, there might be a couple people in the household that are eligible. So even if 6 people are living in the household, if only 2 people are eligible for benefits, then they would only be getting SNAP for a household of 2, for example.
Right.
The good and important thing is that households can still apply. We can apply for folks, living in households with other people, regardless of their immigration status, for example. Mm-hmm. So people should not be afraid to call us and apply if there are, even if it's just 1 eligible member of the household, if that makes sense. So right. County assistance doesn't ask questions about that, or we don't really ask questions about that. But then, yeah, they're only going to get the funds for however many people are eligible.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
My name's Carla. I wanted to know what type of documentation is necessary to apply when you upload your information. What would a person need to have?
Sure. So that actually is determined by the county assistance office, but sort of as a general rule, I would say that the most important documents to have are verification of identity. So, driver's license, passport, something like that. And then proof of residence is usually required. And proof of income for the last 30 days is usually required. So, pay stubs, something like that. We do run into situations where people need to have somebody sign off on the fact that they're living somewhere or the fact that they're being paid. So we can kind of address that on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
But county assistants actually, they will ask for what they need. So, but those are sort of the standard typical things. And then sometimes they'll ask for depending on the age of the person, they might ask for a bank statement or something like that, for proof of assets, kind of.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Anybody else?
There was a question in the chat with Macedonia Face. Would we be willing to share info there, maybe complete applications? Yeah, absolutely. I put my email in the chat, and I'll probably have Deanna reach out to you, but just email me with, if there's a presentation or signing people up on site or anything like that that you think that we might be able to help with, just send me an email and if we can help, we will.
And I also have to say, when I was an outreach coordinator, I did a presentation there and it was a really good experience. So we would love to do it again. Just echo that. All right. I'll put my email in the chat real quick too. I can put up this slide hopefully as well with all the emails, but I'll at least put my email in the chat. So again, if anybody, has more questions, to contact Chris or I is perfectly fine.
Ba ba da ba